Alright guys, welcome back to Hi Guys, it's your boy BDR, and I'm back with another AQ overview video. Now, today's overview is going to be about ShadowScythe General. Now then, about ShadowScythe General, it was the 2018 birthday class. As you know, every October they make a birthday class, and for 2018, it was ShadowScythe General. Now, ShadowScythe General was made to, be a PvP class, mainly to counter, the top horses of PvP at the time, Void High Lord, Arch Paladin, Lightcaster, etc., etc. This class was made to counter those in PvP. Well, since now PvP's done, let's, take a look at it, take it out the bank, and see what it could do in today's AQ Worlds. Now, how to get ShadowScythe General, you have to, join Shadowfall. You do have to be a part of the Evil faction. Go to Graveland, ShadowScythe General, Merge Shop. Now you can get it for, 100 Shadow Shields. You can buy for 2,000 ACs, but I highly don't recommend it. Now you're probably wondering how to get these Shadow Shields and whatnot. There are two dailies. There's the class daily, and there's the member daily. Now for the class daily, you have to join, Light Guard War and basically fight the human type monsters, basically. Over there to get the Broken Blade, which will give you 2 Shadow Shields. Now, for a non-member, it will take you about, more than a month, to be honest. And, for the member one, same thing. You get 4 Shadow Shields. Obviously, if, you combine, get 6 a day, you should get it, far sooner, That's pretty much, how to get the class. Now then, let's go over the skills. So the auto attack, Shadow Slam, 3-second cooldown, physical, short range, 1 target. Grants a stack of consuming shadows which debuffs your damage resistance by 8% and increases the damage done on all your skills for 10 seconds, stacks to 10. Also applies overwhelming shadows to your target, reducing their haste and damage by 15% for 2 seconds. Rank 1 skill, Shadow Blast, 8-second cooldown, infinite range, 6 targets. Deals damage up to 6 targets and has a 50% chance to stun them for 1 second. Applies 1 stack of consuming shadows per target hit. You also gain Rush of Unlife, which increases your haste by 40% for 8 seconds. Your rank 2 skill, Bone Picker. 6-second cooldown, infinite range, 6 targets. Deals damage up to 6 targets and applies a stack of consuming shadows. Also applies a stack of Undead Assembly, which increases your damage done and healing done by 10%. Undead Assemblies lasts 15 seconds and stacks to 4. Your rank 3 skill, Undead Rebirth, 10-second cooldown, hybrid, infinite range, 6 targets. Applies a HOT that lasts 4 seconds. Your Undeath creates an aura of decay around you, preventing up to 6 hostile targets from healing for 4 seconds. Applies a Shadow Seal on you and your enemies, which blocks the enemies from applying the following auras: Illumine, Lumen, Light Wave, Soul Drinking, Abolish, Righteous Seal, and Blinding Light. Shadow Seals last 10 seconds. This is the part I was talking about. Obviously when back then, 2018, this was the counter to Void High Lords, Arch Paladins, and Lightcasters. The rank 4 passives, Living Dead, increases damage resistance to a max of 80% and prevents 10% of damage resistance debuffs. Then we have the last one, Unblindable, increases your hit chance by 30%. Your rank 5 skill, Shadow Void. Alright, 12-second cooldown, infinite range, 6 targets. Deals massive damage to your primary target and less damage to up to 5 surrounding targets. Damage is increased by consuming shadow stacks and it consumes those stacks. Damage always crits and can't miss. Also applies crippling fear to all enemies hit, decreasing their dodge and hit chance by 30% for 3 seconds. And finally, for your rank 10 passive, Sepulchre's Blessing, which increases your crit chance by 20%. So what we can gather here about this class is that, you're supposed to stack your consuming shadows. And then when you have enough stacks, you press your Shadow Void to nuke. And on the fact that it could target, 6 targets, meaning it probably could have some use, in farming, but we have to wait and see. Alright then, let's go on to combos and enhancement. Alright then, here's the build for ShadowScythe General. Smite, because our main source of damage is most likely going to be the nuke, so why not have Smite? Smite does 500% hybrid damage, for most nuking classes, that activate their nuke on the 5 skill. You know, Smite is pretty good. Lucky, obviously, crits. Vainglory for damage. You know, more damage, and Anima for 10% hit chance. The strength at 42. Here's our combat stats right here. And alrighty. Alright then. For your combo, what you want to do here is, you know, 3 rotations of 2, 3, and 4. And then once you're done with those 3 rotations, you press your 5. Now, the thing about, you know, ShadowScythe General is that, you know, its DPS is kind of, you know, up until your nuke, you know, DPS is not really, you know, it in my opinion. You know, the DPS is just far too low to be a soloer outside of its nuke. And we do get a good nuke, don't get me wrong, you know. Okay, right there. It's just that the whole point of ShadowScythe General is that you're supposed to stack as much consuming shadows as much as you can. And, you know, when you feel like you have enough, you just press your nuke. And then, you know, for the damage, you know, 12k right there. It's just, yeah, up until the nuke, yeah, your DPS is looking, you know, mediocre. Mediocre is just, you know, this damage right here. There you go, a 24k right there, that's pretty nice. You know, but this class, you know, it can, you know, debuff the enemy, decay, shadow seal. As I said, this class was, you know, when it first came out, it was meant to be a PvP class to fight against, you know, Void High Lord, Lightcaster, Archfounding, because those were like, you know, the big classes of PvP back then. Don't forget Great Thief as well. So yeah, this overall, you know, we're already at the 2-minute mark already. As you can see, the DPS for this class is just like, yikes. Yikes, up until the nuke happens. Overall, animations, you know, animations are still pretty good. There you go, another 24k right here. That's pretty nice, but I feel like our damage is just going to cap at 24k. Really. It's like our defenses are going well with the class. There you go, another 24k. It seems like, yeah, that's going to be capping out our damage. Right here is just that, yeah, do not take this class into soloing or any boss fights unless you're drenched in support. It is just, yikes, yeah. This class was not meant to be, you know, a soloing class whatsoever. Now, other than that, it's like, you know, it could debuff, whatnot, and it has like a decent nuke. It's just that the DPS is just, excuse me, just not enough to really be a, you know, effective soloer. Here, we're close to being done. Alright, I just got a, you know, question for you guys. How do you guys feel about, you know, ShadowScythe General? And when did you guys get it? When it first came out, like I did? Like, what was your, you know, your best moment with ShadowScythe General? You know, type it down in the comment section below. And also make sure to like, share, subscribe, you know, ring the notification bell for more content. Oh, already at the 4-minute mark with this class. Just to really show you guys, it's like, yeah, don't so class is way too slow. DPS is way too little to be a soloer. Yeah, guys, the 4 minutes, am I right? Yeah. In terms of soloing, don't solo with this class. This class is just too slow to be an effective soloer. Alright then, let's move on to farming. Alright guys, so in terms of farming, yeah, it's just, ShadowScythe General is not really what you want in a farmer. It's just, in like tough situations, its defenses are like bad. As especially in like content like, Stream War and Revenant is just like, it's just, can't really do much. We're already struggling here against these, Stream War people and whatnot. Just while it can, work in, some areas, probably like lower tier, like Shadow Realm Pass and whatnot, it's just like, sorry, it's just not an effective farmer. Its defenses are just like, bad enough to really be. It's just like too bad to really be an effective farmer compared to like other like mid game, late game classes, kind of like Archfiend, Archpaladin, Eternal Inversionalist and whatnot. It's just, yeah, it's not a farmer at all. So like in terms of farming, I would recommend using something else for farming. All right, then let's move on to survivability. All right, guys. So in terms of survivability, while it does have debuffs and all these resistances and whatnot, if it does meet up with like a hard enough boss, it's just like, they're not really gonna care, especially modern bosses nowadays. They're not truly gonna care about, its damage resistances and whatnot. And you may end up in situations like that. So, yeah. Like, yeah, in terms of survivability, yeah, it doesn't have the best survivability, especially against like hard hitting, monsters. It just crumbles while it's trying to like build up its nuke. So yeah, that's pretty much it for survivability. Now then, let's move on to support and then final thoughts. Alright guys, so in terms of support, ShadowScythe General, I mean, like overwhelming shadows can reduce their haste. Yeah. Shadow Seal can like block you and your enemies from applying the following auras. And Crippling Fear can decrease their dodge and hit chance by 30% for 3 seconds. So in terms of support, ShadowScythe General can offer a little bit of support. But I recommend using something else in terms of support. Alright then, the pros about ShadowScythe General is that, it's one of a few classes that could hit, up to 6 targets. I think the other one is Eternal Inversionalist. And it has, stackable debuffs and it's easy to use and obtain. So that's pretty much it. Alright then. The cons about ShadowScythe General is that, its defenses aren't the best. It has pretty mediocre DPS. Most part, and you really have to stack your skills in order to get a decent nuke, even with forge enhancements. So yeah. You have to like stack, and then press your 5. That's why, we had Smite to get like a 10 to 20k nuke, where there's like classes out there that could do much more for far less. Alright then, so for my final verdict, ShadowScythe General is a PvP option class that could hit up to 6 targets. I recommend getting this class if you're looking for something new to use, or if you're looking for something to play PvP with your friends. Alright then, that's pretty much been it for the ShadowScythe General overview. Make sure to like, share, subscribe for more Hi Guys content. And yeah, Hi Guys out.